By golly, it's nice to see you. On the way down, I stopped in this bar, you know, there's a good-looking gal there, you know, I kind of walked over to her, you know, kind of curious, says, honey, what time do you have to go home? She says, how much money you got? I says, $300. She says, not until next Friday. But I don't get much luck meeting girls, so this fellow was sitting there, I said, how do you meet these girls? He says, well, you're in the wrong place. You don't want to go into a bar. The smart thing is to go to a supermarket way out on Sunset Boulevard. You go to the supermarket in the afternoon, you know, the women come out with their arms, little packages and bundles. You run up and say, may I help you? They always say yes. You say, where to? They say, my apartment. Just like that, you're in. Don't forget, it's way out on Sunset Boulevard. So I took his advice. I went out on Sunset, saw this beautiful supermarket, you know, and everything. I'm standing there. Out comes a gorgeous blonde with the packages and the bundles. I said, can I help you? She says, yes. I said, where to? She says, my apartment. 20 minutes later, we're sitting inside. I'm enjoying the view, picture window. All of a sudden, there's a knock on the door. She says, it's my husband. She says, I'll tell you what, I'll tell him you're my cousin. Just come in visiting me from Seattle. Door opens, he comes flying, and she says, darling, I want you to meet my cousin. The guy looked at me and he said, didn't I tell you to go way out on Sunset Boulevard? Oh, they have problems anyway. Even in the ancient days, they had problems with romance. For instance, Mark Antony arrived at the palace in Egypt, you know, and he comes in and he says, where's Cleopatra? And the slave said, she's in bed with laryngitis. Damn those Greeks, they're everywhere. Sometimes people have problems at both ends. In fact, there were two physicians. One happened to be a psychiatrist, another a rectal specialist. And they had trouble finding an office, so they got together in one office and put out a sign, Dr. Couch and Dr. Rump, specialists for odds and ends. But business wasn't doing so. So they changed it to specialists for nuts and butts, and nothing happened there. Finally, they got a sign put out, specialists for queers and rears. They've been doing a hell of a business in Hollywood ever since. Always reminds me of the girl who married the queer. They got home, she took off her dress, he put it on, went out. Had a hell of a good time. I know, I was with him all night. Hear about the little fairy who died? They cremated him, put his ashes in a fruit jar. His spirit was so happy. Oh, these things happen to people all the time. Matter of fact, most of them wear berets. You know what a beret is? That's an Adam hat that makes them look like Eve. Matter of fact, speaking of happiness, you know, I've been happy 15 years. 15 years we've been happy, haven't we, Bill? I shouldn't say that about Bill. Nah, people will get the wrong impression and think he's sort of a fairy. He's not that way at all. He's really bisexual. Which means if he wants any, he has to go out and buy it, just like the rest of us. I don't know what it is, but when you're in show business right away, they get the wrong impression. You're a degenerate. There's something wrong. What is this? The other night I was smoking a cigarette. That woman said, look at his eyes. Look at his eyes. He's smoking dope. What is it? I have to take a little drink. He's a lush. He beats his kids. One drink. The other night I come home to my wife. I was telling her about it. I turned to her and I said, Sam? Well, we can't all be fighters, you know. In fact, there were two guys arguing in Hollywood. One said, is he queer? He said, is he queer? He's gone down on everything but the Titanic. There were two fairies in Hollywood, and one says, did you hear the news? What's that? You can get leprosy from sexual relations. Really? Well, not really, but spread the rumor. And there was a fairy run over by a steamroller, crushed fruit. In fact, there was a little midget queer. He went into a bar, kissed everybody in a joint. What a wild night that was. And there was a little fairy so ugly, he ran around with girls, you know. Well, you can laugh about these things, but I'm telling you, some of them are doing all right. Take Christine Jorgen. She's in that Western, Man Without a Gun. What a wild deal. They interviewed her. Could you kill a man? Well, yes, but it'll take me weeks and weeks. How about a horse? Oh, come on. And there's a queer termite. He'd only eat mailboxes. Sometimes the opposites attract, you know. Even an animal. There was an elephant and a mouse. Very good friends, you know. And they sit in a local water hole in the jungle there. And a big giraffe walks by. And the mouse looks up. Ah, think the legs on that tall broad. Wow. The elephant says, you want to meet her? It's a friend of mine. I'll fix you up with a date. So they go out, the giraffe and the mouse. 4 days later, nobody sees the mouse. They're worried about him. Finally, the 5th day, he staggers in the local water house. Eyes are all bloodshot. He's got a little cane. He can just about make it. And the elephant says, where the hell have you been? You look terrible, boy. What happened to you? And the mouse says, oh, what a date. Between loving and necking, I must have run damn near 10,000 miles. You know what little mouse does with his tail when he takes it to bed with him? enjoys it like everybody else. Sometimes these jungle stories always fascinate me. I had a friend of mine come back from India. He told me, you know, they shoot these elephants from the tiger hunts and everything. They shoot them on top of the elephant on a thing. It's called a howdah. A howdah. This play. You know why they call it that? Because when you're standing on the ground, you look up and say, "How the hell are we gonna get up there?" But speaking of elephants, this little boy and his mother went to the zoo, you know, and they passed by the cage where the elephant was. And his mommy, you know, standing. The kid says, "Mommy, what's that?" He says, "That's an elephant." I know, but what's that hanging down? That's the trunk, dear. No, I mean back, that's the tail, dear. No, I mean right, never mind, darling, that's nothing. Let's get on home. A week later, he's at the zoo with his father, you know, and they're passing the elephant cage. He says, "Daddy, I know what that is. That's an elephant." He says, "You're right, my boy." He says, "And that's the trunk." He says, "That's right." He says, "That's the tail." He says, "Yeah, wonderful." They start to walk away, and the kid says, "Wait a minute, Daddy." He says, "That Mommy," says, "that was nothing." And the old man says, "Well, your mother's been spoiled, son." Back in one small town, the circus played there, you know, and it so happened the elephant escaped. And it's going through town, and it happened to get into one of these little gardens, and this elderly lady in this small town, never seen an elephant before, she looks out and she's this monstrous beast, you know, tearing up the cabbage. And she runs to the phone, she calls the sheriff. She says, Sheriff, there's a strange animal, a gigantic animal in my garden, picking up cabbages with his tail. The sheriff said, "What is he doing with them?" She says, "If I told you, you wouldn't believe me." Oh, as legend would have it, you know, animals, everybody has always been led to understand that the lion is the king of the jungle. Well, like anybody else, these people feel that they should have their ego built up. So the lion one day was going through the jungle and wanted to prove his prowess to the world. And he grabbed a monkey right off the tree and he goes, "Who's the king of the jungle?" The monkey says, "Hell, man, you're the wheel. What are you yelling about, huh? You got all the marbles. Come on already." He goes a little bit further and he grabs a zebra and he says, "Who's the king of the jungle?" And he says, "My God, you're a monstrous thing. Ooh, you're beautiful." The zebra talked that way. He was an animal of a different stripe. Coming down the jungle path is an elephant. The lion said, "This is it. This is the showdown." He leaps right up to the elephant and says, "Who's the king of the jungle?" And the elephant looks down with little beady eyes and he grabs the lion and he whirls him around in the air. And he jumps on him and he picks him up and he whirls him and he drops him and he sits him and he bangs him and he bangs him and he whirls him. And the lion looks up and says, "Now look, man, just because you don't know the answer, you don't have to get so gosh damn mad about it, you know." You know, it's amazing about elephants. They have a very strange custom. They always die in one place. No, that's a fact. You've read about it in history. Ivory traders, hunters for years have been looking for this fantastic burial ground. Why does the elephant die there? No one knows. But I don't care where he is. He can be over here. He can be in a circus. When he has time to die, he knows he has to go there. He'll get on a boat some way or other, and he'll go through the terrain of the roughest jungle, and he'll go over elephants, and he'll go through the swamps and the rivers, and he'll climb, and if he dies of thirst in the desert, and he'll climb, and he'll get there, and he'll always die in this one particular place. And you know why he dies there? I'll tell you why he dies there. It's the damn trip that kills him. Oh, animals have unusual habits. Hear about the rooster says, "I'm getting mighty damn tired of chicken all the time." Then there was the alley cat coming by with 5 little kittens. The tomcat says, "Hello, honey." She said, "Don't honey me, damn it. You told me we were wrestling." Matter of fact, I was down on the farm the other day, visiting with my uncle, sitting there eating some of that homemade bread with that country sausage. All of a sudden, around the corner of the house comes this hen. And right behind her, about 2 feet, is this rooster chasing her like mad. I accidentally dropped the crust of the bread, and the rooster stopped dead in his tracks, just like that, and picked up the bread. I hope the hell I never get that hungry. Hear about the 2 pigeons flying over the Rose Bowl? The one says, "Man, what a crowd!" The other one says, "Yeah, it takes the sport out of it, doesn't it?" And there was the young rooster and the old rooster arguing over who was going to take care of the girls. But the old rooster says, "Well, now look," he says, I don't want to fight over this. Is ridiculous, you know what I mean? There's a lot of, why don't we make a sporting proposition out of it? I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll race around the barn. Whoever gets back here first takes over the hens." He said, "Well, that's all right." No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm 10 years older than you. How about giving me a yard start for every year? 10 yards. He says, "Well," the young rooster says, "I'll give you 15 yards. I know I can beat you." So they line up, and away they go. They're going around the barn, and old rooster's moving, going like crazy. Right behind him, the young one coming faster and faster. And just as he about to catch up to the old rooster, the kitchen door opened. There's a farmer with a shotgun taking dead aim. Pow! Kills that young rooster, just like that. Turns around to his wife and says, you know something, honey? That's the third queer rooster I had to kill this week. And there's a lady who had pet monkeys. This lady had a pair of pet monkeys. They died, so she took them to the taxidermist, you know, to sort of fix them in their natural state and preserve them. He says, would you like to have them mounted? She says, no, shaking hands would be all right. Matter of fact, I had a little trouble with animals myself the other night. After the party, my wife turned to me. She says, what did you say to my aunt? I didn't insult her. She told me how to get rid of rats in their basement. She put ground glass in their holes. And I said, who the hell held the animal? I like dog stories. Everybody likes animal stories, you know. I got a dog named Broker. We call him that. He does all his trading at the curb, you know. He sleeps with me. I know it's unsanitary, but he's beginning to get used to it, you know. Hear about the two dogs passing a row of parking meters? The one says, hey, Daddy-o, look at those crazy pay toilets. Then there's a dog who sat too close to the railroad track. The train come along, boing, cut off his tail. He got mad, he turned around, he started to bite the train and cut off his head. So the moral of the story is, don't lose your head over a piece of tail. Something's wrong, though, with my dog. I'm a little bit worried about him. You know, when I give him a bone, he don't take it in the yard and bury it like anybody else. He takes it in the garage. This went on for 4 days. I was a little bit worried about it, so I snuck in and looked in. What do you think he's doing? He's building another dog. Wouldn't be so bad, but it's a male dog. Oh, the things they brag. One friend of mine had a dog. He said, this dog is sensational. He can talk, he can do anything. I said, I don't believe it. He said, I'll prove it to you. So he turned to the dog. He said, here, Rover. He gives him the money. He says, here's $5. Go get me a pack of those king-size filtered. 20 minutes goes by, no dog. Half hour, no dog. An hour later, still no dog. He's worried, so we go down to look for the dog. He's in the alley with another dog. My friend says, Rover, you never did this before. And the dog says, yeah, but you never gave me that much money before either. Oh, the things that happen. Speaking of circus, you know, they had the circus out here at the county fair. And this ferocious lion had killed 3 trainers. So they hired this guy, brought him all the way in from the East Coast. Resplendent in his uniform, you know, they got Look magazine photographers there, Life, everybody's there, you know, taking pictures and snapping and interviews, you know. He's bowing, he's all ready, you know, and he goes in the lion cage, and just as he gets ready, he happens to turn around and boy, the lion hits him and the blood is flying, the people are screaming and yelling, they're sticking the poles and they're shooting the guns. They finally get the guy out and he's damn near dead. And the boss of the circus is so mad, you know, he turns around, he takes a check he'd given the guy, he says, I'll double it. Not $1,000, I'll give $2,000. Anybody to go in that cage and take care of that lion. A little girl walked up and she says, I'll go in. He says, no. She says, no, I'm over 21. He says, oh, what are you going to? She says, I'll go in. I'll sign an insurance release. You just let me go in and I'll take care of the lion. She goes in, the lion gets all ready to spring and she drops her dress and stands in the nude. And the lion cocks his head and he starts pussyfooting. That's logical. He's getting closer and closer, and he's sniffing, he's licking her toes, and then he's going higher and higher, and he's sniffing, he's licking at her knees, and he's going higher and higher and higher, and a hush falls over the crowd. The boss turns around, and he looks at the guy dying on the ground, and he says, why the hell couldn't you do that? And the lion tamer says, you get that gosh damn lion out there, and I'll be glad to do that, boy. One guy was hired to clean the lion's cage, you know, and he got there, and the guy said, that's it, you go in there and take care of it. He says, no, wait a minute, what do I do if the lion rushes me? Oh, he won't rush you. I know, but suppose he does rush me. Well, that's all right, he won't rush me, but if he does, well, then throw something at him. But there's nothing in the cage. If he rushes you, there'll be something in the cage. People have unusual pets. One exotic dancer bought a parrot. She wasn't too sure about it. She just wanted company, you know, in her apartment. So that night she's getting ready to go to work, you know, and the phone rings. She comes running through the living room, and she's just got on a pair of pants, and the bird goes, ah! Pretty blue panties, pretty blue. She's like, oh, he talks. Next night she's in a hurry, the phone rings, she runs through the room, and the bird goes, ah! Pretty red panties. It's, oh, he distinguishes color. Third night she was in such a hurry, she come running through, she didn't have anything on. The bird goes, ah! How are you fixed for blades? When I was with a girl the other night. Of course, I love sports, you know. I said, you like baseball? She said, I'm crazy about baseball. I said, wonderful. I grabbed her. I said, bat her up. And I kissed her on the lips. And I yelled, I'm on first base. And I kissed her on the chest. And I yelled, I'm on second base. And I kissed her on the stomach. And I yelled, I'm on third base. And she yelled, go on home, honey. I won't tag you out. I don't care what you say. Sex is here to stay. Sex is here to stay, and there's a damn good reason for it. It's got a hell of a location. It's right in the middle of everything.
Centrally located.
Of course, it'll never replace handball. Of course, people like sports. A friend of mine went visiting one of those resorts up there in the mountains, you know, and he stopped into the hotel. He said, how much are the rooms? He said, I just want to spend a few hours. I'm a traveling salesman. I like to play a little golf. He said, the rooms are $50 a day. No, you don't understand. I just want to play a little golf. I mean, I'm not going to stay in it. Whether you play the golf or not, sir, the rooms are $50 a day. Well, hell, that's too much. You can try another hotel. He goes down the road a little bit further, sees a little small hotel. He walks in, he says, I'd like to play a little golf. How much are the rooms? He says, well, the rooms are only $5 a day. He says, wonderful, I'll take it. So he goes out on the course and he plays about 18 holes, you know. Feels great and relaxed, takes a shower, and he's ready to check out. What's my bill? The guy said, it'll be $405. $405? Are you kidding? For what? He said, why, up the road, I was at the top hotel. It's only $50 a day. He said, that's true, sir. Up the road, they get you by the rooms. Here, we get you by the... You'll have a hell of a time playing. Basically, I guess everything is more or less started on this earth with the animals. In fact, when the good Lord created man, he gave man 20 years of normal sex life. And the man said, well, that's not enough. He says, well, that's all you can have. So he's going down the line, you know, and he comes to the lion. He gives the lion 20 years. The lion says, I don't need that much. All I want is 10 years. So the man comes right over and says, good, I have the 10. He gives it to him. The monkey comes on, the same thing happens. The good Lord gives him 20 years. The monkey says, no, 10's enough for me. Give my other 10 to the man. All of a sudden, along comes a donkey. He says, 10's enough for me, give mine to the man too. And the last one's the parrot as he's coming down the line. He says, you heard him, 10's enough for me, give my 10 to the man. Which winds up the reason for the fact that the man has 20 years of normal sex life, 10 years of lying about it, 10 years of monkeying around with it, 10 years of making an ass out of himself with it, and 10 years of talking about it. Speaking of sex and things and romance, you know, I read that book, Lady Chatterley's Lover. I read it the hard way under a cold shower. And my mother came in and tied my hands behind my back. I went to see the movie the first time my popcorn kept popping in the theater. You think you got problems. I lost my wife. Her husband just came home from the army. Another night I took this, well, I couldn't help it. I happened to take a shower with the shades up, and right away everybody said I was marrying her for her money, which is a damn lie. Just happened to be a cold shower. That's oh, I want to tell you why we've always been in love. We used to have kisses for breakfast and kisses for dinner and kisses for supper, and 8 days later I had to leave her. Found she was eating out. Nobody I knew. She was the type recommended by Duncan Hines. You know, Duncan Hines, he tells you where to eat. Dr. Kinsey gives you a different preposition. I came home one night and there was my wife. Lay there was nothing on but an old piano player. He was an odd sort of fella. He didn't play the black keys, he didn't play the white keys. Always playing in the... What a rascal that cat was. You never know what's going to happen with these things. The other day, my friend come into town. Hadn't seen him for years. He came in on a convention. He called me up. I says, come out the house. He says, well, oh, come on out. You don't have to get a room in a hotel. Stay with us. We had a wonderful dinner and everything. That night we retired. All in the same room, all in the same bed. If it's all the same with you, it was perfectly all right. My wife slept here. My best friend slept here. And I was reclining in the middle. During the course of the night, I felt something on top of me. I looked up and there was my best friend. I said, hey, where the hell are you going? He says, who's going? I'm coming back. Yesterday I come home from work, I come running in, you know. I says, honey, sweetheart, I got a surprise for you. She said, what is it? I said, I got a new position. She says, oh, no, you damn near broke my ribs the last time. No, this is different, yeah? How different? Back to back. Why? How you gonna do that? I invited another couple over. Oh, my wife says, either quit drinking or I'm going to leave. I sure miss her. Matter of fact, I hated to lose her. They just don't come like her every night, you know. I said to me, he says, how's your wife? He says, better than nothing. You know, when I first met her, she was wearing an atomic bra, you know, 80% fallout. Matter of fact, you know how to avoid a fallout? Shorten the stroke. Oh, these things happen. Women, you know, believe me, you girls right here tonight, you're so beautiful. Look at you. You're dressed so gorgeous. What is it with you girls? You go out, you look like Zsa Zsa Gabor, and at home, you look like Mrs. Khrushchev. I don't know what. You ever see a married couple when they come to a place? They always give themselves away. The woman says right away when she's home, I want to go out. I'm tired of sitting around the house. I want to dance. I want to do the mambo and the cha-cha and everything. I want to dance every day. By golly, so what happens, huh? When they get home, she says, I'm tired. Let's go to bed. What is it with you women? You always fade in the stretch. Don't you realize it? The trouble, it's you. You wear these gownless evening straps and you spread your lure of enchantment and your wiles over your husband. And you dance with him all night and hold him close. By the time you get home, the guy is ready. And where are you, huh? Where are you? You're in the bedroom, taking off the beautiful gownless evening strap. You're slapping on the cold cream. You got the curlers in their hair, and you put on the Chinese pajamas all the way up to here. You put on that dirty old bathrobe, and you come running into the living room, and you open the door and say, come and get me, sweetheart. No wonder he says trick or treating. Girls, I'm telling you, they spend $1 million on getting pearls out of the oysters. Girls, forget the pearls, eat the oysters. And there's a guy whose wife phoned him, you know, and told him to pick up a loaf of bread. And any special kind? She says, yes, I should get some raisin bread. So he stopped in this little delicatessen on the way, and happened to be a very attractive young girl there, you know. She said, I'd like to have some raisin bread. It happened to be on the top shelf. She gets up there, and all the while he's watching her, she gives him the bread. The next morning, he said, you need any bread, honey, on the way home, huh? She said, yeah, same kind, wonderful. So he stops in the place again, that same good-looking, gorgeous young gal's there waiting on him, you know. He said, I have the same kind of bread. She gets up on the ladder, and from where he could see, you realize she didn't believe in confinement at all, you know. And he's watching, you know, and he's staring, and he's watching, and she's reaching way up on the top shelf. One little old man, about 65, come in, and the girl looked down and says, is yours raisin too? He says, not at my age, honey. I want to tell you something. No matter how you look at it, believe me, I want to tell you, women are all alike. Great, isn't it, huh? You know, I haven't been dealing much with politics, but I'll say this about the women. When they want to get into politics, they do a good thing. I heard a woman the other day yelling on a soapbox, telling all about the troubles. We must have what the man has. It is not very much, but we mean to have it. We refuse to be poked in the gallery any longer. We want to be placed on the floor just like the rest of them. We want to uphold our end and show the men our possibilities. Nothing that comes too hard can be too good for us. And I'll tell you something else. We are willing to work under the men, and we are beginning to become disgusted with their shortcomings. And the men often say, down with the petticoats. They say, up with the petticoats and down with the pants, and we shall see things in a true light. For as long as the women are split the way they are, the men will always be on top. I almost got elected. Actually, it's a funny thing about traveling around, you know. So many different people have different customs. For instance, in France, there in the Riviera, there's one beautiful girl come running out of the hotel. She went into the ocean, and she started to drown, and this guy went out for her, and he couldn't make her. He couldn't reach her in time, so he got her out, and he put her and laid her on the beach and went to get help. All of a sudden, another guy's come along. He sees a beautiful girl. Wow! And he grabs her, and he's making love to her, and the guy comes back with the ambulance and says, what are you doing, monsieur? She's dead. He says, Sacre bleu, I thought she was an American. I was mentioning politics. There's a story about the senator. You know, he took this beautiful young secretary to Chicago. He says, you don't have to worry. You know, I have immunity from the Mann Act. You don't have to be afraid of it. She said, who's afraid of it? I love the damn thing. But it's amazing what can happen to people when they really try. Matter of fact, I just happened to mention this to the other day. I shouldn't even bring it up, but it happened to come back to me. I was in this restaurant, you know. And, well, I couldn't help it. It was a Greek fella. He's been in this country for years, you know. And when they were making money, they're building up their thing and everything like this. And the boys were still talking rather with the accent. He called him. He says, now, look, we're living over here in America. We want to live the way they do. We're making a living out of it. It makes a wonderful home for us. Talk good English. So he trains them, and they do. They speak wonderful. And he has a little friend of his, a Chinaman, comes up from the laundry, you know, every day, and he walks in, he sits down for his, he says, what would you like today, Charlie? He says, 2 fried eggs. He says, oh, Charlie, I've been in this country as long as you. Look how clear and distinct my diction is. Why can't you speak American? Why you're making a living off of this country? Why don't you come in and learn to speak right? And the Chinaman got mad and he left. It wasn't about 4 months later, the Chinaman comes in again, you know, and the Greek had forgotten all about the ins, and he says, hello, Charlie, how are you? What are you going to have today? 2 fried eggs, you gleek plick. Even in school, you have these little things more or less happen. This one little kid raises his hand, he says, teacher, she says, not now. Teacher, he says, a little later, Charlie. Teacher, she says, not now. 3 minutes later, she says, all right, Johnny, what did you want? He says, never mind. He says, I opened my geography book and I went in the ocean. For instance, some things happen sometimes. There was one couple rather excited when they got married. They went to the county clerk, you know, to file a marriage license. After they got the license, they went to the justice of the peace. So he brought it in, you know, and he said, this doesn't have the girl's name on it. He said, well, can't you put it on? He said, no, it's not my job. Go back to the clerk. So they go back, they come back, the justice of the peace looks at them and he says, wait a minute, this don't have the date in it. He said, well, I know that, but we want to get married. We don't have... You'll have to go to the clerk. It's not my job. They go back, they come back again. And they're getting all ready. He says, this doesn't have the county seal on it. He says, oh, come on. I'm sorry, it's not my job. It has to be done according to red tape. Go back to the clerk. Finally, they come back. The judge looks at all the seals and everything. I think it's in proper order. He gets all ready to sign the thing, and he looks down, and he notices a little 3-year-old boy with the couple. He says, who's that? He says, our son. Your son? You mean you had him before? Yeah, we had him before we were married. Well, I shouldn't really bring this up, but you hope you realize this boy is a technical bastard. And the guy says, that's funny. That's what the city clerk said about you. One patron walked in one of these restaurants, was very clean and neat, you know, and he says, I'll have a hamburger plate. And the waiter come over, you know, and he's got the spotless apron on and everything, you know. Oh, it is beautiful. And this guy's amazed at the cleanliness of the plate. And the waiter takes everything and he wraps it in a napkin, he puts the food down, you know, and he handles the plate, and he takes the tongs and he puts the food from the plate right on there, everything real clear. And the customer was amazed. He says, this is so clean. He says, you always have it like this? Oh, yes, everything is perfectly clean in here. We handle everything exactly the way the boss tells it. You notice something? You notice that I have this string hanging from my trousers? He says, that's when I go into the men's room. We always use the string, you know. We take it like that and we use the string. He says, well, that's wonderful. He says, but how do you get it back? He says, well, I don't know about the other guys, but I've been using these damn tongs. Oh, you'd never know it. You know, some people try to recapture the thrills of their life, you know, as they go along and things like that. There was one couple, Mr. and Mrs. Cohen, celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. So they went to Florida, you know, and she said, I tell you what, why don't we live our honeymoon night over again? He says, oh, Sadie, look, why? She said, no, let's do it the way we did it, huh? I said, you go in the other room and get ready, you know, and I'll stay here and I'll wait for you, and open the door, and you run in and run right to my arms, and I'll run right to you, just the way we did it when we were honeymooners, huh? So he goes in, he's up in, and then he opens, takes his clothes, he opens the door, and he comes running, and he trips over her shoe and goes right out the window, stark naked, boing. He's sitting there in the shrubbery, and he's shivering, and the bellboy goes by. He says, Mr. Cohen, what are you doing down there? Get me some clothes. I had an accident. Get me some clothes. I got to go through the lobby. He said, well, you can go through the lobby. He said, but the people, he said, nobody there. They're all up on the 3rd floor watching some woman try to get off of a doorknob. Actually, these things happen to have different problems for him. More or less, I happen to have a story that I haven't told in a long time. And I'm going to tell it now because this is a story of a fellow who was just like any other average person. He was, except for one little, minute mistake when he was born. He didn't have a navel. In its place was a silver screw. He grew up from fairly well-to-do parents, but he was self-conscious about this. He'd go to school just like anybody else. He'd play sports, but he wouldn't dress with the boys because he was afraid, you know. I thought maybe he was square, and the girls thought he was strange. And he kept going, so he studied, and he soaked up this knowledge, and he became such a fabulous brain that when he graduated, he was in college at the age of 17. And he graduated, his parents died, he took what money was left to him, and he invested in Wall Street, became a fabulous financier. And at the age of 25, wealthy, money to burn, never been with a girl. He's going out of his mind. He figures, well, I'll travel. I'll go to strange ports, strange countries, and something will make me lose this inhibition. So he goes, and he's to Paris, and he's to, Cairo and Hong Kong. Finally, he's in the horrible, horrible spot in India, and he's walking down the street one day, and this beggar, dirty, humble, craven, says, Miss, Sahib, silver, give me silver. So he throws a few pieces of silver. He says, oh, thank you, Sahib. You not only give silver, you wear silver. He says, what do you mean? He says, upon your person you bear a silver screw. You're out of your mind. How did you know? And he's choking, he's screaming. He said, no, I can't tell you, but I can tell you how you can be rid of it. Go to the temple of the great Buddha at 1 minute to midnight. Strip yourself naked. Lie there and wait. And he's thinking, ooh, what a crazy way to meet a broad, you know. And he goes to the temple and he strips himself, and his skin and an earthly pallor, even the marble pillars are suntan in comparison. And he's waiting 1 minute to midnight. Nothing happens. Finally, at the stroke of midnight, like a spotlight in a theater, a silver ray comes down from the moon, and coming down is a silver screwdriver, scintillating with diamonds, closer and closer, and he's staring, awe-stricken and waiting and hoping, and it comes down, and it grasps the silver screw, and draws it from his stomach, and goes back into the sky, and he's lying there thinking, 25 miserable years, he's free, and at last, and he leaps straight up into the air, and his ass fell off.